back with some new freshness of the forgotten variety. It's just this way at the Dim Carnival.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dim Carnival. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And this week we're talking about the beginning of the Forgotten Freshness Volume 1 and 2. We did the first 5 tracks off the first disc of this double disc album. So this album came out after the success of Great Malenko. It was released. Obviously, it's a rarities collection that was put out after Insane Clown Posse became a household name following the controversy at Hollywood Records, and then the release of Great Malenko on the Island, and eventually that album going platinum. There was a Forgotten Freshness that was released in 1995, but there were some non-cleared samples that appeared on that album, so it was only released in Detroit, some of the Midwest areas. As a result, they wanted to try it again with songs that were legal for them to put out on Island Records. So they put out this double disc album of Forgotten Freshness, and the first track we're going to talk about today. Whoa, easy. This first track we're going to talk about. All of these songs sort of come from different eras, from between about 1993 and 1998. So this first track we're going to talk about is Hey Vato, and if you haven't listened to it, you can listen to that right now. And now that you've listened to Hey Vato, or don't care, you might recognize some of the music in here, maybe some of the lyrics in here, because Hey Vato was originally planned for Ringmaster, didn't end up being on Ringmaster. They repurposed some of the music for Wagon Wagon, which I'm sure you can tell very easily. And some of the lyrics were repurposed onto the song Who Asked You on Ringmaster. But Hey Vato didn't make the cut, I guess because they felt that just restricting gang members to those with nuts that hang, being down with the clown, it's a little bit too narrow of a focus. But this song does immediately answer the question of where I'm the Juggalugga Luckaroni comes from What is a Juggalo on Great Malenko.
I think it's a great song. I had this on my long playlist and got very excited when it would come on. I really enjoy the music, and I really enjoy the looped zombie moaning in the background when Violent J raps. I really enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I love that I thought it was like a ghoul, a whale, or whatever. Just really great. I was listening to it and I was like, okay, the verse, like, whatever, listen to it, and then the chorus came in, and I was like, oh, damn, this chorus is really good. But, it was, like, my first time listening through it, and so I wasn't trying to think about it too much, just kind of have it on. Like, yeah, I like the chorus, I really like the chorus, and then I go back the second time and listen to it the second time, and I'm like, oh, shit, it's just Wagon Wagon. So I pull up Wagon Wagon, I'm listening to him back and forth, and it was just very crazy.
You're mixing them on the ones and twos.
Well, I think that it's interesting because the guitar part, I think, sounds better sped up. But obviously you lose the wagon horn. Like it's all gone. So it's good. I think that's great when they changed it to Wagon Wagon. Obviously they kind of played up the horn a little bit more, which I think was a great choice because it's like the best part of the song.
Mhm.
So well done, guys. Good choices. Even though this is good, it's like, this is exactly what you want, right? Like right off the bat, you put the record in and then you're like, holy shit, this is cool. This is a song that didn't get released and it had effects on 2 other songs and the chorus sounds familiar. And it's all, it's it's a decent song. So you're doing well.
Yeah, like, come on, hot, this one. You can tell it's from the Ringmaster era because it's 5 minutes long. The outro is like 2 minutes of that. But I really like the verse where 2 Dope and Jay are going back and forth. I like that. I like that part. It's good.
I thought it was kind of hard to tell them apart. I wouldn't say it might have taken, well, yeah, it definitely took me more than one listen through to realize that was the case. And I know we've talked before about how sometimes it is difficult to tell their voices apart. But in the chorus, that's the thing that I like about the chorus is it's all these different lines kind of intercut with different tones and different, with just like different tones. So it's like super different voices, like a bunch of cuts of their different kinds of voices. You get their like high pitched, whatever, J voice. They're all in there.
Yeah. It's a smattering of their greatest sound. But the song's sort of all over the place as far as thematically, especially Violet J's verse, sort of all over the place. But it does give I just imagine Steve enjoys the, hey dude, what's up, man?
Yeah, that's always funny. I feel like they're making fun of me.
And that's the one part that I recognized was from Who Asked You. Except in Who Asked You, they say we're not in a rock and roll band, or we'll never be in a rock and roll band.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It seems like they're trying to play both sides of the fence. I like that Violet J at the end of this, like, his verse doesn't really it's not really anything. Like, I like it, but it has like absolutely no cohesion to it. He talks about living in a sewer and he wants you to call him shit for brains, and he balances on telephone wires and he sets fires. Again, he is naked. But then he just sort of is like, just sort of devolves into like, bang, 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 gang, gang, gang.
And then rhymed it with ghetto slang.
Yeah, gang, 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 ghetto slang. Like, maybe people won't understand what I'm talking about when I say gang bang.
It's just like psychopathic Rida's persona. Bullet.
Since this was recorded during Ringmaster, this is like definitely the first time that they explore the series of words "much clown love" and the concept of it. And it's interesting that the Much Clown Love, because if you're not aware, Much Clown Love, MCL is a standard acronym, greeting, a salutation, and a exultation. I don't know what you say when you leave. It's definitely a big part of, especially the online community, and being a juggalo in general. But it's interesting that Much Clown Love was sort of a rallying cry and chorus this early in their history, but it didn't see the light of day for another 3 years or so until after it was recorded.
Yeah, I think that it's just not like it's a good song, but I think looking at it, even I don't know, probably at that time you could have understood why it didn't exactly make the record,
right.
But still a very good song. And I feel like the best part of it is the end when they kind of smash everything together and you get the cool electric guitar riff with the zombie wail in the background over it. And that part to me is super fun. Like that's when it becomes like a really cool, fun song.
I don't remember which song it was we listened to this week, but there is one of these 5 tracks that ends with a lot of scratching.
Yeah, this has got some good like 90s MTV Beach House long cool scratching.
Cool?
Oh yeah, man, it's just I think it's cool.
Shaggy Dope just scratching his little heart out.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. I feel like I'm highly affected by the same imagery when I picture things in my mind. But yeah.
MTV Beach House.
Yep, sepia tone, MTV Beach House,
The grind, all Dutch angles.
Yeah, like rack pans and stuff. Twisting the camera around.
Yeah.
Double image.
It's party now.
I have no idea what the guys you are talking about.
Ryan, I've been having a lot of not 90s, but early to mid 2000s nostalgia because I just watched everything that Jackass ever did, and now I'm like rewatching like the first couple seasons of Viva La Bam, and it's so much nostalgia for me and you specifically. But that's a whole other. Let's start another podcast about that.
Oh my god, you sent me that video, but I haven't watched it. Because I feel like that would happen to me if I open that door. Then I'm gonna want to go back and rewatch it all.
I gotta tell you, worth it. Super worth it. Super worth it.
Laughing just thinking about it.
Anyone who is interested in or enjoyed Jackass, word to the wise, almost nothing from the first season of Jackass holds up. Almost everything else Jackass ever did super holds up. Extremely holds up. Anyway. Let's go ahead and move on. Wait, sorry. Any further Hey Vato thoughts? Because I feel like there's probably something to be explored in the titular words of the song, but I have no idea what that might be.
I do. In the chorus, I actually love all of the different parts of the chorus, all of the words, but especially when he's like, yo, fuck. I guess you didn't know. And then they're so cool. True. They're like, much love.
I did like in the part where you were, Bill, were talking about how they're going back and forth in the third verse. I like the music in that too. How they add the little bit of the carnival, like do 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 do. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, this was definitely a song that because I listened through headphones for this one, and it's definitely one that jumps out at you way more when you listen to the music the preferred way that Violent J asks you to. There's a lot going on in the production of this track.
Yeah.
I really like that when just at the very beginning when Shags like assaults this kid that happened to come into their neighborhood or whatever. And the kid's name is Richie, but he just immediately calls him Bitchy.
Yeah.
But I was kind of...
Don't you know you're on clown ground?
Right, you're on clown ground. What is clown... So, like, okay, so there are real gangs.
It's very sticky.
No, but there's, like, real gangs in this place.
Right.
And they're all down with this not gang.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all down, and it's clown ground. So are they sort of like the gatekeepers for the real gangs? So they're like, better be careful coming around here, because if you're not down with us, then you're definitely not gonna be down with any of these guys. Well,
they just have their own section.
To me, it seems just a little bit kind of sweet, Like,
yeah.
he's just kind of bullying a little kid, Which is not great, but that's a lot sweeter than like murder.
Yeah. Well, like it's kind of like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids is kind of a gang, but like
okay,
they're just a group of friends that hang out.
Yeah, or Heathcliff and the Garbage Cats.
Yeah, Heathcliff and
Garbage Cats.
Top Cat and his crew. A lot of cat-based gangs. What are the houses in Game of Thrones if not gangs? But there are a lot of non-threatening groups of friends that just hang out in the streets. But I do agree with you that it's sweet that it's like there's so many gangs and there's like all this gang turf, but like everyone's so cool with ICP. They're like, oh, that's just ICP, man. Just go. You guys can just stand over there, like.
Right. They're like, yeah, you're on clown ground. They're like, yeah, don't worry about those guys. They're cool.
It's like when you go into like a restaurant in like Hollywood in the 80s or whatever, and people would be like, oh, you can't sit there. That's Hugh Hefner's table. But it's ICP and they have like an alley. Is this a place to start bringing up something that we've never brought up before, i.e., a cultural appropriation as it pertains to Insane Clown Posse? Or
yeah, man, they do say. Doesn't he say like you've come to the barrio?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that we've never really touched on before, because pretty much all white people who dabble in hip hop are partaking in cultural appropriation. I mean, like, I don't think there's any exceptions to that. I'm not saying that there's not truth to artists who grow up in specific circumstances and then talk about their circumstances and whatnot. But it's interesting that I think, like, especially at this point in what we've experienced in listening to ICP from the very beginning, this is the first instance of them dabbling in Latinx, like, stuff. Like, I think the only other time that they mention, like, Hispanic, Latino, Chicano culture or people or anything is, like, talking about taking a woman to Mexican town on a date, or the skit I love so much of fucking burrito. Burrito fuck me up. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like, I mean, I like the song, but I just think it's interesting to choose Hey Vato as, like, the hook and the title.
Well, wasn't one of the gang? So I don't even know what gang culture was like in Detroit, but there's a gang
Sure.
that was called Latin Kings or whatever that they.
Oh, yeah.
That they say that name. I just assumed that there was a Latin gang.
Well, there had to have been. I mean, like, Michigan has a massive Latino population. Like, they have a massive. There are a lot of Mexican immigrants that live in Michigan. So there has to be some sort of presence, like, of people in their lives, if not people involved in local street culture or what have you.
I was trying to think, remembering listening to the audiobook and him, Violent J, talking about the area that they lived in. And to me, it seemed more like he moved from a close to suburban to more of an urban demographic that was more African American.
Yeah, I don't.
In population,
I don't
but not. He didn't talk too much about being more Latino people.
Yeah, I don't recall him talking about.
So I don't really know what the influence is apart from Shaggy,
Mm-hmm.
and wherever he come, whatever his experience was, because we don't get that in the book.
It just strikes me as 1995. Maybe because of movies that had come out or whatever, or the influx of the rise of LA street gangs coming to prominence, maybe trying to emulate that sort of feel without necessarily being aware of any connotations or anything.
Well, like me being super naive about it, man, and just thinking, like, growing up in Southern California and how it's presented in the media, I feel like that sort of gang culture kind of started in LA, started in Southern California and was emulated, or those gangs actually moved to those areas, and that's why it resembled it. But I think especially, definitely in cultural representation, yes, like that LA, that Southern California LA imagery was gang culture, like.
Well, especially like Mi Vida Loca, which I think is probably the most, like, the first biggest, like, visible thing of, like, Chicano street culture or gang culture, like, that came out in 94. So I think, like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, where I grew up, Mi Vida Loca was, like, a pretty massive touchstone for, like, people being aware of Chicano gang life.
Yeah. That or American Me.
Yeah.
I saw that movie a million times, and I saw American Me a bunch of times. I didn't see Mi Vida Loca.
I think.
Yeah. And Blood In, Blood Out came out in 93. So yeah, that was like 95 would be like the perfect time of, like, oh hey, we know what gangs are.
I think if I was like a year older, then I would have been old enough to have access to that. But I think I was just behind. I didn't get to see that until I was a little bit older. Those movies.
Yeah, I didn't see them until I was older, but like everyone I went to school with was like aware of like, oh, to hear this movie is awesome because I see myself in this movie, and this movie is awesome because this is everyone I know in my life. Like that was the people around me. I knew that these movies were important to them.
Sure.
For me, it was because I'm older than you guys. I remember I think it was in 7th or 8th grade. So I'd put it about 87, 88.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in junior high and coming to school one day, and everyone had seen Colors.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone had like picked their sides. And I mean, and the thing is in Salinas, gang culture was already big. It had been big and scary since the 70s.
Sure.
And but there were kind of like lulls, kind of like ebbed and flowed. And I feel like after Colors came out, it really got like, because then all of a sudden, all these kids I had been playing G.I. Joes with and trading and playing kickball come running up on me saying they're gonna slam my head or fry my head. No, but it, like, you know,
fry your head.
Remember that? It's in Violent J at the end of one song on I forget what it is, where he talks about kids he played G.I. Joe with and stuff like that come up to him and start throwing gang signs at him. And then he says, "I fucked your sister at your birthday party." Anyways, I just remember like all these kids like I think like gravitating towards like what their other cousins and uncles maybe were doing, and like they see these movies and like some guys are coming in with their red and other ones are coming in with their blue. It was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because it was like really like almost felt like an overnight thing.
Right. So then we couldn't be gangbangers. Okay, so let's move on to the next track, which is Dead Pumpkins. And if you haven't listened to that, you can listen to it right now. Dead Pumpkins, may not surprise you, was a track given out at the first Hallowicked in 1994. It was, or rather, if it was not the first Hallowicked, it was the first Hallowicked single that was given away. For those of you who aren't aware, Hallowicked every Halloween since at least 1994, Insane Clown Posse puts on a gigantic show or couple of shows in the Detroit area, and it's a big to-do, and they always give out a single at the Hallowickeds. That's the only place you can get that single. So this was the first one that was given away, Dead Pumpkins. It dates all the way back to 1994, and it starts with a story, a Halloween story for the class.
Yeah, so the kid who's being voiced by Violent J, I believe, starts telling the story, and the music starts right away. And the kids tell just kind of like a generic, I don't know if you guys think anything interesting about the story. I feel like a little generic kind of just horror story or whatever. But the thing that I like is that what I feel like is the teacher starts to moan along with the melody. Like there is a kind of a moan already as it starts. It's like a wail or whatever. It makes the melody of the music. But then this almost the exact same voice as before, who spoke as the teacher, starts coming in and singing along with it, and I think it's pretty hilarious.
She likes the story. It's not a great story, but
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Why the kid? Why wouldn't the teacher say anything? Kid's getting really worked up, you know.
My main complaint with this story is it starts off like first verse, he's clearly like a serial killer, and the dead pumpkins appear to allude to the real human heads that he has as jack-o'-lanterns that he rips out the brains and puts a candle in. And you know, the refrain is "Have a dead pumpkins Halloween," but he only spends a few lines talking about the actual dead pumpkins, if those are in fact the dead pumpkins to which he refers, which they probably are. But it seems like it's possible that this song started off as, oh man, what if there was a dude who had like jack-o'-lanterns that were real heads, call it Dead Pumpkins, and that he realized there wasn't enough material in that for a full song. Because it's like the first verse, it seems like, oh, it's a crazy serial killer who has this insane house on a block during Halloween, but then later he's like a bat or whatever.
He's like a vampire.
Yeah.
Okay. So I listened to this song. I don't even know how many times I ended up listening to it, because each time I listened to it, I liked it more and more and more. So the first couple times I listened to it, and when I had this album, I would always skip over it. It wasn't one that I favored. But each time it was like, the song's good. I was like thinking, if you went to Hallowicked and then got the CD and jumped in your car, if all of us jumped into Bill's, what was it, your Tiburon, and we're headed back and we dropped that thing in there, dropped that in the CD player and started listening to this song, I think we would be like, this is good, man. This is really fun.
Unfortunately, no.
But I thought that at first he was like sad. He's like, nobody comes trick-or-treating at my house. Why not? Like, I decorated, like everybody else is giving out treats, but nobody wants to come here. But then he starts explaining what would happen if anyone did, and it's very clear, like, why well, definitely don't go there. You're gonna chain me to a wall for 7 years.
Yeah. I think that this song may take place in an alternate reality, or perhaps the future, because he refers to every year the people burn the city down on Devil's Night.
Yeah.
But I do like that he celebrates by lighting himself on fire and dancing around in his backyard.
That part made me laugh out loud. I love that part. And then you're right, he turns into a bat.
Yes. Also, watching you remove all your little clothesies for bed is one of the creepiest things he's ever said.
I think he was, I don't know why he would ever say that in the first place, but it felt like he was compelled to say that, but wanted to phrase it in a way that made it like not, like, it's like predatory to, I'm going to eat your blood, not
right.
I'm going to do anything sexual.
Right. It's just such a weird thing to say, regardless of content. But I also, so this song, on first listen, I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of that's super unusual for ICP. It seems like this is the first song that we've encountered where they even mention potential violence toward animals. Because he says the kids are hoping for chocolates or a licorice snack. Instead, you get a deep fried French poodle nutsack. But I rationalized it to myself by thinking like, oh, it could just be a poodle that got neutered. But it is, I just have to, like, it's so unusual for them to, like, even, like, potentially be talking about, like, mutilating an animal.
But doesn't he talk about the other types of treats that he gives away? I don't have the lyrics in front of me. But it's all like ladies' fingernails and... Sure,
but they always talked about killing people.
Well, I didn't think that it was that he was necessarily killing people to get that stuff, or maybe he's like...
Well, no, he says crusty yellow toes off a dead woman's feet.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Well, maybe he's just come up with that stuff as well, He's not just necessarily from his killing, but if he's out there, maybe he just likes dead bodies and shit. It's a dead body man.
I want to ask about something that Shaggy 2-Dope says in the outro. Is choking someone wicked clown style just being choked by a wicked clown? Or is there a specific orthodoxy to...
Well, at one point, they, I think in Jackal Brothers, after Violent J cut all his hair off, he says he would choke. He's singing to a woman, I think, saying he would choke her with all his dreadlocks if he still had them. So
yeah, that's a good style.
I think it's just with like a swagger, like you ninja out and choke him real cool and then walk away.
You get a little clown makeup on your throat after they take their hands away.
Right.
Like when Nate Diaz has someone in a triangle and flips off the camera or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's unusual about this song is that Violent J never once talks about potentially getting naked or being naked.
Oh, doesn't he say he gets naked before he lights himself on fire?
No.
No, just dance around on fire.
Yeah, he just watches other people take their clothes off.
Right, okay.
It's not him.
Maybe it's just implied.
It's not him.
His clothes burn off.
Yeah. It might just be somebody else. It might be a Dead Pumpkins man.
I'm just a dead pumpkin man.
Call me the Dead Pumpkins man. You can carve them for me.
I do really like the imagery of, I can picture the Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, like scooped out heads and or whatever up there on the porch and kind of slowly melting or whatever. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like they would be able to make a whole song out of that concept,
and they do.
Yeah. All right.
Bowling balls.
Yeah, about having heads.
Oh my god, I definitely know that song. It's man.
Funhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus. I can't wait till we get to hear that again.
I like that song.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get to. I want to get to stuff that I haven't listened to before.
I like Bowling Balls better than I like the video for Bowling Balls.
Oh my god,
that was 5-minute video.
So I had a friend that was all into hardcore music. That he was a roommate actually at the time, and he hated ICP. But I was making him like it by laughing a lot and playing it for him, and so he was starting to appreciate it. And so then when we got Hell's Pit and it came with the video on a DVD or something in this, or maybe it was at the end, I don't know, but a disc came with it. I put it in. I was like, all right, I've never seen this or heard this song, but here's a little like movie that they've made for this song. And we watched it, and I still laughed a bunch, but at the end of it, he looked at me and he was like, don't ever show me something that's stupid ever again. And then he went back to like never liking ICP. He was just like, no, I don't think it's funny now. He's like, that was so stupid. Like, he wouldn't even listen to it with me anymore.
Is that the one where it's like a horror movie where the kids, like, teenage, their cars break down or whatever? Yeah.
These 40-year-old teenagers wind up in ICP's haunted house. Yeah.
Man.
The music's so great in that song.
I barely remember it.
That's for the best. All right. Are there any other thoughts about Dead Pumpkins before we move along?
No.
I just think it's cool, man. Just listen to it. Keep listening to it. If you don't like it, it'll grow on you.
Yeah. Like a fungus. Yeah, so the next track is called Fat Sweaty Betty, and you can listen to it and tell us when you're ready.
Sure.
All
right. Why don't you?
So this song was originally intended to be on Riddlebox, but was not. And it was later released on the Mental Warp tour as a single that they offered exclusively to fans on that tour. This is about Fat Sweaty Betty, and this is a point in the show where I'd like to bring up the fact that I feel it's possible that when we started on our journey, we were very critical and objective about ICP, but as we've grown to love ICP, we might have started treating them with kid gloves a little bit. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I do want to bring up that possibility and check in, take the temperature with you guys and think, do you guys still feel like you are able to be objective about, the problematic things that ICP might say, or do you think that we still take them to task when appropriate, or do you feel like we've backed off a little bit?
I feel like we backed off a little bit. I feel like also it doesn't happen as often. But also I think, we've been covering songs that we really enjoy, and I think we probably have I don't like that line, but everything else is so great, or we don't even bring it up at some point that there was something problematic. I mean, I know on Malenko there was a skit that we wouldn't even cover, and that was kind of rare that happened. And, so yeah, this song bothered me. I'm glad you actually brought that up.
Yeah, it's obviously not great as far as subject matter goes. And I also think it's very interesting and weird and gets a little twisty-turny by how diametrically opposed Violet J and Shaggy 2 Dope are to approaching the subject matter.
Yeah, I agree. And it was weird because Shaggy is super balls and he fucks anything, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah.
Well, they're both super balls, right?
I know, but like, I still like picture Shaggy as super balls.
Yeah, it's Shaggy.
Right.
Yeah, there were just things that like I didn't get in the song. Obviously, I was even talking about it with my friend, and I told her I think I was overthinking it, but like, I mean, clearly in the beginning of the story, Betty is a girl because Violet J knew her, but as a little girl, and then she became large, and then in Shaggy's verse, at what point? I mean, she ends up having hairy balls. I'm like, she ate so much she grew hairy balls. Like, I was just like, I didn't get it. And like I said, I was probably overthinking it, but and then like boogers running out of her nose all over her lips, like that's not what people who are overweight do. Like, it's just like, yeah.
Like he needed to make her gross, so he added a bunch of other stuff that was gross besides her being large.
Yeah.
The part of the song that I actually enjoy is the outro, which is extremely long, of Violet J listing all the food he's gonna feed to her. It's so long. But so that's the part of the. I just have a lot of problems with the verses, but in the outro, it seems like there's like it can be read as a sort of feeding fetish going on.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. If that's your kink, if that's what you're into, if you like feeders, if you get sexual arousal from being able to feed someone and then have sex with them, like, fucking go to town, man. Like, let your freak fly, hit it. But the rest of Violet J's verse, you can kind of see it getting there, like that he realizes that this is something he loves, although breaking a lamp over her head.
I think in fairness is because he couldn't breathe.
Sure. And they didn't have a sequel established prior to that.
They were cuddling, man, and she just rolled over, but he was about to suffocate.
Well, she rolled over and knocked the wind out of him, which is a funny, really funny, like, visual to think about. Like, rolling over and, like, whap! Like, but the thing that complicates Violet J's verse is, like, okay, so first of all, like, at first when I listened to it, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck did he say? Because on first listen, it can sound like he says that her mom used to fuck him when he was 2, but then it seems like he and Betty used to fuck when they were 2 at the playground and the skating rink under the bleachers.
Yeah.
Which is so super fucked up and awful and bad. But Jay, like, can't believe that what Betty has turned into at first. And then it seems like he grows to love the new Betty. But then Shaggy's verse comes in and is just hateful and awful. And then it goes back to this super long outro of Jay being awesome and being like, I work at these restaurants, I can get you all this stuff, let's do this. Which I like, but it's just there are a lot of twists and turns to get to that outro.
I kind of thought that it was like that that's how they met, but that they kind of grew up together through like adolescence, maybe.
No,
does it say explicitly when she left?
She said that when they were 2, she let me hit it, and then she moved across town and never came back until the other day I seen her at the Chicken Shack, which implies that she was gone from then until now. And he says the sexy little girl is now a fat sweaty bitch, which implies that he didn't see her when she was like growing up. It is also creepy.
No, I guess like I still think it's that they grew up like from maybe 2 to like 10, you know, and then she moved away and through like puberty and stuff. and so she was a girl,
Right.
but still old enough to like, you know, Stephen King.
Perfect.
And then she leaves, you know, moves across town. Whatever, comes back, and he's like, man, she's really developed. She's turned into a full-figure lady. There's one thing that I really love about this song, and it's the amount of times and the description of cellulite.
Yeah.
And I feel like so what I think that they're trying to do, to speak more to what you started this song discussion about, is that I feel like they're being clever to have an out, to be able to talk about things that in a controversial way, but still present it in a manner where you're like unsure how they really feel about it, because they're reinforcing the typical messages, you know, that are negative towards people who are heavier or whatever, but they're saying that they love it and that it's their favorite thing or whatever.
Yeah,
so they're kind of trying to blur it.
And they have a history of doing that, where they're like, I like there's a lot of songs where they're like, I like fucking people who are societally nasty or weird, you know, like long red titties or whatever. Like, but Shaggy 2 Dope clearly doesn't enjoy anything about Betty, and I think that that's what makes me dislike the song so much, is because they have such an established history at this point of being like, oh yeah, I'm into this weirdness, I'm into that weirdness, but Shaggy is like very strenuously objecting to the way that Betty looks, the way that Betty acts, who Betty is, and he wants to turn back, but she shuts the door and gets the cake snacks. And at that point, she doesn't like strong arm him into having sex, but he's like, oh no, I don't want to hit it. And then she closes the door and wants the cake snacks. And at that point, he's like, well, all right, if we're in this situation, then you're going to have to drop them draws. But then once again, when she drops the drawers and apparently has hairballs, he then wants to back out again, and she gives him a Yokozuna splash, but he says, I wish I never came. Oh boy, do I wish. So Shaggy just isn't into this at all, and very specifically talks about like how gross she is and how opposed he is to the idea. So that's it's just Shaggy's verse seems so out of place given the history of ICP with people who are not traditionally attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know why they don't just do it the way, like a different way, or why they do it that way. But I feel like it is kind of what you're saying, that he'll fuck anything. And when he finds out that Betty's back and what she's like, and that her face is all snotty and that she's so fat, he has to go fuck her. He has to. And so he's compelled to, even though he doesn't want to. So I think that's what he's trying to say.
Shaggy hears it from Jay and he's like, well, I gotta get this.
Right.
Okay.
And so, but I still think Shaggy, like, you know, Joey, like, still wants to be cool. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck a big fat lady, but so I hate it, but I have to do it because it's me, you know. But I don't want to, but I'm gonna. Job. But yeah,
this is my job, man.
I mean, my dick's hard, but I don't want to be here. And she's gonna do the dresser splash. Okay, so that is something that in what song was it where Violent J in his message says that he wants a lady to jump off the dresser onto his balls. Right.
Jesus Christ. Sorry.
And here we go.
But
that's
I
Sweaty
do
Betty
like,
did it. She's the woman he's been looking for.
Yeah, but she did it to Shaggy.
And then it goes into the outro, like you're saying, which I think stands way above everything else. If it was a challenge for you to get to this point, then you might feel a little bit of reprieve for the rest of the song.
The outro should just be the whole song. But it's just to me what bothers me is it's such a disparity because Violent J, his verse starts out weird, but he clearly after like when he gets to the midpoint of his verse, he clearly is like super into her because he gets aroused by her having a piece of chicken gizzard stuck to her chin, and then he takes her back to his crib and they hit it all night. And then when he's talking about her cellulite for the first time, he says, it was nasty, but I don't let it bother me. So he's saying, like, objectively, you would say that this is gross, but to me, it doesn't bother me at all. And he gives her a kiss goodbye. He calls her his fat, sweaty pumpkin pie. And then at the end, he just is going on and on about how much he loves her and how he wants to feed her. And just having Shaggy's verse come in the middle of this is so...
He does say, let me count the purple bubbles in your cellulite.
Which I don't know what that is. I think he's getting cellulite, and I think he's getting cellulite and varicose veins mixed up.
Yeah.
It's quite possible, and perhaps even likely they don't know what cellulite is.
I think he's described cellulite as like bubbly and in that same way. It's in gross way.
Mm-hmm.
Before.
I think it ends the perfect way by him saying, how about some Taco Bell? How about a pizza slice? How about some chicken fingers and a bowl of minute rice?
I think when he says it, let me lick your dirty foot.
Yeah.
Apple pies in a microwave.
Yeah.
It's
so
really fun. And I feel like it does feel like a freestyle. Like, it feels like he maybe had some things he knew he was going to say, but that he was just kind of going, like, because it doesn't really have an arc. Like, it just kind of ends,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really love it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Steve's still hard on sex songs.
I don't have a hard on for sex songs.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's listen to Willy Bubba, and if you haven't listened to it, you can do so right now. So Willy Bubba is a song that finally dares to ask the age-old question, who kicked Willy Bubba's ass?
So this is
sorry, I'll give you the background real quick.
Oh, okay.
Willy Bubba was another song that was originally intended for Riddlebox, and then there was a time when they thought it would be on Great Milenko, but it of course appeared on neither of those albums because it's not as good as any of the songs on either of those albums. And also because they very clearly were like, oh, you know what? I kind of like both of these choruses. You know what? I think this is the good... No, I think that one's the good chorus. You know what? Let's use one as a chorus and let's use one as an outro. There. Case closed.
I thought they were like, boy, everyone really liked that Chicken Hutton. We need another song like Chicken Hutton. Okay, so it's the same kind of thing of like, he's looking for people to beat up. And they go and beat up school kids, like find racist school kids and sometimes kill them.
Yeah.
Like this gang of clowns go from school to school and beat up and or kill little kids.
And yeah, it's funny because he even says like he doesn't go to school anymore. He dropped out, but he's still hanging out there.
Yeah.
that
so it's 30-year-old Violent J in a school, and a redneck kid walks up to him because he thinks that this adult might have some information for him. Instead, he gets murdered.
I have a huge question about this song though, and I'm going through the lyrics still. I mean, I listened to it, and I don't know what Willy Bubba did to deserve to get beat up and then murdered. Because, like,
fucking thing.
He's not racist necessarily. He just came from the land of racists.
Yeah, he's from Kentucky.
He sounds like
Kentucky.
a bigot. Yeah, he has like a... Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, so, like, he's, like, being targeted.
Yes.
Without actually,
Yep,
maybe
zero
there was
tolerance.
a verse they threw away. Yeah, I guess so. I felt kind of bad. I was like listening to this. I was like, they're just being a bully to this kid.
Yeah.
And then when Shaggy starts like talking about, shooting them and killing them, I was like, well, that's better. At least they're not bullying him anymore. At least his pain is over.
He says he's gonna kill his kinfolk, and he says, "Don't cry to run to the teacher because she wouldn't be able to understand what you're saying, and even if she did, she sucks my dick." So.
Which I thought was super great, but then I remembered that's actually on the next song. It's on "Fuck Off," where he says that the teacher is his girlfriend or whatever.
No, it's a song.
Well, he also says it on "Fuck Off."
Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, it's so weird that it's like, I think the coolest part of the song is just the line, "I've been down with the clowns since day one. It's day two."
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
just that's the best thing to come out of this song. But it's so fucking weird because it's just, you sound like you come from the land of bigots, and so that's what deserves this.
Okay, so I feel like a couple things. I feel like the verse part is actually good or fine to listen to. The really horrible thing, the thing that ruins the whole song, is the chorus. And
if the outro was the chorus, it would be better.
And so they've got all the pieces of the formula there. Like, it's got the anti-racist content. It's got the yup.
What? Does it?
It's got, I guess it's got chants. There's
Right.
got the music is pretty good. There's like a really good pig snort, and there's a chicken crowing back there, a horse that's going. And I don't know. I don't know what the difference is between a whinny and a neigh. That sounds like nickering to me. That was nickering, right? Is that what that's called when you out the side of your mouth?
Yeah.
No, that was me trying not to sneeze.
Right.
A whinny and a neigh are pretty close.
When a horse, stands up and goes, "Brrr," what's that?
It's a whinny or a
Really?
neigh.
A whinny or a neigh. Okay, so it's both.
Because a horse only really makes one sound. Two if you count. You know what that means? It don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
But it scared you.
But then there's like, there's a chant. It's got the record scratch and stuff going out. And so what I feel like is that they had the idea and they tried to put it all together, but it just didn't come together. It seemed like if you explained the pieces of the song to somebody as like, well, this is what the song is. It has these different elements. You might think that it would be good, but it just doesn't come together. I feel like.
Yeah. It's a weird concept that's barely half baked. It's definitely not fully formed, and it's not very good. And the chorus is terrible. It's the epitome of just there for ICP. And guys, imagine if this song had made it to Riddlebox or Great Malenko.
Right.
Lord Almighty.
It's very silly to consider it for a Great Malenko.
Especially if this song and Chicken Hunt and Slaughterhouse Remix had appeared on the same album. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they were doing this song and then they were like, oh wait, no, I got a better one. Oh wait, no, because they'd already done Chicken Hunt and they referenced Chicken Hunt in this song. So maybe this was going to be their redneck song, and then they were convinced to put the Slaughterhouse mix on Riddlebox. Thank God. Regardless, thank God this is just a Forgotten Freshness track.
Yeah, I don't think, they all can't be winners, man. I feel like it was an effort and it just didn't work. I'm ready to go, but there is a one wild guitar going on in that chorus if you listen to it closely. That guitar is winging and wanging all over the place. And I couldn't find any sample information on any of these songs, but there have to be samples that are in there.
Yeah. And to me, besides I've been down with the clown since day one is day two, to me the highlight of the tracks were the snippets of redneck voice that pop up here and there. Steve, you want to move on?
Sure. I was sitting there, I was really scouring and just looking at Shag's second verse, trying to think, well, maybe we're misunderstanding when it says like he sounds like he comes from the land of bigots. Maybe we're just interpreting that as meaning his accent, and maybe he's been like talking shit, and that so it sounds like he comes from the land of bigots. But the line above it says his voice sounds silly, so that even took that away. It was like, damn it.
Well, that's kind of interesting because I just assumed that there was some kind of underground network that was communicating, who were the guilty parties as they were going from school to school. That somehow the other students were letting them know. Like, right? There's nothing that indicates that would be the case, but that's what I thought. But then also the other students. Did the other students participate, or are they just these non-students hanging back in the class when the teacher is like, "Who did this?" And they're like, "Oh, it's clearly us, these older non-students that are here in this classroom."
Yeah, it's weird. All right, let's move on to our final track of the week. I'm sorry. Was there?
No.
I'm sorry. I don't think there's anything.
You have nothing to apologize for.
All right.
It was just funny.
Let's move on to the final track for this week, which is The Graveyard. And if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and do that right now. So this is a track by Project Born, produced by Mikey Clark and featuring the Insane Clown Posse. It came out on Psychopathic Records on the Born Dead EP in 1995. Project Born is a three-piece group from Flint, Michigan, comprised of Pint Capone, Frank Nitti, and Young Polk. And this is obviously not an ICP track right from Jump Street. It has a very different feel. And to me, what jumped out at me, right, the first thing that really jumped out at me was Shaggy 2 Dope, who is the first person to rap from ICP on the track. Frank Nitti has the first verse, and then Shaggy 2 Dope has the second verse. And it's clear right from the beginning, Shaggy 2 Dope is not rapping in his usual style. He is rapping in Project Born's style very much so, which to me, to my uneducated ear, sounds pretty influenced by Bone Thugs and other artists of that ilk. And it's just very interesting to see Shaggy. I don't want to necessarily say being able to mix it up, but it's interesting to see because this is by far the most he has deviated from ICP's style ever, especially to this date in 1995. He is trying a whole new thing, and to me, what it sounds like is Shaggy 2 Dope clearly hearing what Project Born is doing and being like, "Oh, that's another way I can do this," and emulating them as opposed to emulating Violent J.
I thought it was. I hear exactly what you're saying, man, and I think that very well could be. When I was listening to it, I thought it was that they were just explicitly trying to match the tone of the song. And
that's absolutely true, but what that means is Violent J generally sets the tone for what ICP does, and this is an example of them doing something different, doing Project Born style, and I think that that's the first time Shaggy 2 Dope was asked to or even thought about doing that.
I just imagine, that would be a conversation that they would all have together, like, when we're making this song, how are we going to do this? What do you guys want to do? What do you want it to be like? Because ICP don't really have they can do their own thing. If you want to be that, you'd be like, just tell them what you want them to do, and they'll be like, yeah, we can do that too. They could do the gangster style. They could do the.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I like it. I like Shaggy's flow on this song. Also notable, I guess, first, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've encountered the N-word on a track featuring ICP since Kid Rock got the honor on Carnival Carnival.
Right. Good point, man. Excellent point.
So nice to have some representation.
I don't have too many thoughts on this. I mean, I did think that as I was listening to it, I felt like I enjoyed Shaggy and Jay's verses more than the others, the Project Born verses. And what that made me feel like is that I think it's a nature of my relationship to this band is ultimately what I started thinking is that I like ICP and I like their aesthetic and I like what they do, but I just haven't ever really gotten down with any of the other things like any of the other acts that they've been associated with, apart from Twisted.
Mm-hmm.
But I just never got into any of those other acts, and I understand why they appeal to juggalos, and I understand why they're, you know, the bands go together, but I just never really got into that stuff. And so I listened to this track, and I'm like, yeah, it's all the same content, and they're talking about the same kind of stuff, and it should be really fun. But I'm like, yeah, this isn't ICP, you know. And then it gets to Shaggy's verse, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to listen to ICP. That's what I'm here for. Which is to say nothing bad about Project Born. Like, it's good. I like the ICP and J parts, you know, or sorry, Shaggy and J parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the concept of the song, and I like them. I do really like them talking about, like, oh, like, the 6 of us are gonna be like your pallbearers. Like, I just think it's interesting. Like, it's an interesting way to mix it up, and it's very interesting to see Jay and Shaggy mix up their normal style and do a different style of rapping and sort of flex their chops a little bit and be like, hey, we can do other stuff too, even though it's all the wicked shit.
I like that they all had the same formula or whatever of ending each of their verses in the graveyard somehow. Like, the first guy, like, spells it out.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Never heard someone spell graveyard in a rap.
It's a big long word to spell out. Yeah. But I like that in Shaggy's verse, he says that they're gonna sell the bodies to the dead body man, and then later Jay says, "I'm doing this because I am the dead body man."
Yeah, that's me. and it is also interesting to hear about, like, Project Born all talking about like they'll say stuff that's a little bit, like, funny or clever, but it's mostly like Project Born, like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, and then, like, Violent or, like, Shaggy's like, oh, like, I tried to kill a zombie, but his head fell off and he was nibbling at my toes. Like, I do also enjoy the callback to the Loons. I'm always a sucker for good Loons reference in an ICP song.
The only thing that stood out to me, I never really heard this song. I mean, I may have heard this song years ago, and just like, it didn't stand out, so I probably skipped it. So the only thing that stood out to me was in Little Half Pint's verse that he's packed a Bible.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like, interesting. He's got a Bible with him.
Is he the same? Is that the same verse where he works in the word derriere?
No, that's the first verse.
Oh,
that's Frank. Yeah, no, it's very good. I like that one too. Jay will be the barrier, Too Dope will be the carrier, and Project Born is sworn to pull the bullet in your derriere. I love it. It's very good. I like that a lot. And that's really, like, that's just
Robin Banks, like Frank Nitti. That's in one of the Bizarre albums when they're freestyling. He says Frank Nitti.
Nice.
But I can't remember who that is.
It's this guy.
I mean, I'm just gonna ask. I hate to ask. I'm just curious because they did use the N word, and I was just, are these fellows African Americans, or
they are
these? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes, they're 3 African American individuals.
And are they the
It's
first?
not a twisted situation.
I might be mistaken on this. I think that they are the first act to be signed to Psychopathic Records.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. They got this EP put out in 1995. It did not perform well. They were dropped from the label summarily. But they stayed relatively close. They did perform at the 2000 Gathering.
Yeah, I thought that there was some stuff even
apparently
recently.
According to some things, apparently Project Born just has never broken up. Like, they still are together as an entity. So still making it happen, man.
Nice.
Chasing those dreams. Yeah. So is that going to do it for us this week, guys?
I think I'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. We are out of here for this week, guys. Thanks to everyone for listening. As always, dimcarnival@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dim Carnival. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us and or these songs. And next week we will continue and finish up the first disc of Forgotten Freshness Volume 1. We will do Fuck Off, I Didn't Mean to Kill Him, Southwest Strangler, Santa's a Fat Bitch, and Witching Hour. And that'll first disc. and then continue on like that, just forever and ever. I think that's all we have to say. Anything else to add, anyone, before we duck out?
No, good.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
for
right,
letting
cool.
us
Thanks
take
to
a
everyone
week
for listening.
off.
Hell yeah, we took a week off by accident. What's up? We'll try not to do that anymore in the future. But yeah, thanks for hanging in there, guys, and let us know anything we need to know, and we'll talk to you next time. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And this was Dim Carnival. How about
Santa Claus is a fat bitch. Oh,
Let's
that
go.
was awful.
And then one guy tripped on his way to the patent office, and his suitcase fell open. And then he had to, oh no, I lost all my papers, so he had to go back and rewrite them, and that's how it happened. Oreos.
There was a Oreo Slugworth that was like, I'll pay you 10 of these if you get me an everlasting gum stuff. Wasn't that? Doesn't Slugworth like hold up a stack of money that's of an uncertain denomination?
They're like
that-
traveler's checks or
Give
something.
you a specific number of these. Like, he doesn't say, I'll give you an amount of money. He's like, I'll give you 40 of these gift cards.